Coming up on Network Africa. At least 80 passengers killed in the latest boat accident in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Opposition party Nkatha Freedom Party agrees to join South Africa's unity government as the presidential deadline looms. Plus, the World Health Organization calls for continued attention to the war in Sudan. Hello and welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Layo or Larinde. We begin in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where at least 80 people have died after the boat they were traveling in sank. President Felix Tshisekedi has announced the disaster, calling for an investigation into the true causes of the unfortunate incident. The accident on Wednesday occurred on the Kwa River, about 70 kilometers from the city of Mushe in Mandombe province. Well, deadly boat accidents are common in the DRC, where vessels are frequently loaded well beyond their capacity. The Central African country has few tarred roads across its vast forested territory, and so river travel is common. Let's move to South Africa now. The lawmakers will be electing the president on Friday after being sworn in at the first parliament sitting. Now, this session will reveal the unity government that the African National Congress has formed after it lost its majority for the first time since 1994 in the elections in May. Well, lawmakers are also expected to elect the new speaker and deputy speaker, with choices influenced by ANC opposition negotiations following the recent election results. Now, the parties are under pressure to conclude negotiations by Thursday to be able to fulfill their constitutional requirement to swear in lawmakers and elect the president within 14 days of election results being declared. Well, earlier this week, former South African President Jacob Zuma's Umkhonto weSizwe party asked the country's highest court to stop the newly elected National Assembly from sitting. However, it is unclear if this would affect Friday's meeting. In the meantime, the leader of South Africa's Nkatha Freedom Party, IFP, says his party has agreed to form part of a government of national unity that includes the African National Congress and the biggest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. Valency Kosini Labisa says that in Durban, was speaking in Durban, he says that the only options were to become part of the government or part of the opposition. Well, South Africans are waiting to know who would form the next government after the ANC lost its majority. This is the first official indication that a government of national unity has been agreed, although the Democratic Alliance and the ANC are yet to comment on this. Well, let's get more on this. Joining us now is our correspondent in Johannesburg, Innocent Samosa. Hello, Innocent. Another D-Day imminent in South Africa when the country finally gets to know who would be the president. Tell us, how is the first sitting of Parliament expected to go on Friday?
Indeed, a very good evening to you, Layo, and our viewers. Yeah, it seems as though it's all system go for Parliament, seventh administration sitting, regardless of the hurdles, from the MK party going to the electoral court, going to the constitutional court recently. Parliament is forging ahead with, this particular sitting. We do know that it will indeed be presided by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. You would remember that he took time to actually respond to these political parties as they requested him to come and preside over this election. We do know that there's going to be an election of the president and election of the Speaker of Parliament. As it stands, we're not going to know tomorrow the cabinet of the country. This could very well be that tomorrow is just these two elections of the president and the Speaker of Parliament. So the portfolios, the Department of Health, Department of International Relations, Department of Trade, and so on, it will come at a later stage. So this time around, we're electing a president. But it does seem as though it's all system go. In fact, the Secretary General of Parliament briefed the media in Cape Town earlier today, just giving details as to the preparedness of this sitting. It does seem as though they're forging ahead, regardless of the court cases that were filed by MK Party, led by former President Jacob Zuma. Layo.
So does this mean, the court case doesn't hold any water?
Yeah, it does. It seems as though the court does not want to entertain it. Again, they struck off the roll. The electoral court has removed it. So now they're trying the constitutional court. They're arguing that because they've got a lot of seats, I mean, they've got about 69 seats in parliament. That's a huge number. They feel that if they're not represented in parliament, so it would nullify the sitting, because a majority, part of people who are elected by South Africans are forming part of that election in parliament. So they feel that it's not going to be legitimate. But the court said, look, we're moving ahead regardless of what you're saying. We're taking what the electoral court has said. But now they've went to the constitutional court. In fact, they gave the electoral court, they gave IEC up until Sunday last week to respond to their grievances and their objections during the elections, because they believe that the elections was not free and fair. But it does seem as though they're moving ahead, forging ahead, for want of a better term, regardless of what the MK Party is saying. Like.
All right, then, in a sense, we're seeing the Inkatha Freedom Party, the IFP, an opposition party, agreeing to join forces with the ANC in forming this government of national unity. Is the ANC close to, eventually having this government set in place?
Yeah, for now, we've not heard from the ANC. They were supposed to brief the media, I guess, by 4 o'clock. But we've not heard anything from the ANC. I guess maybe they are still negotiating. Yeah, the IFP has indicated that it can work with the ANC. But I guess they wish that the ANC could form a coalition with the DA, because you would remember that the IFP also, leading to these elections, they had a multi-party chartered alliance with different political parties, including the main opposition party, which is the Democratic Alliance. So I guess it wouldn't be a train smash for them to essentially go into a coalition with the ANC that is in bed with the Democratic Alliance. But if the ANC decides to go with the EFF or MK Party, which is unlikely to happen, if they decide to go with the Economic Freedom Fighters, it might cause challenges, because ideology-wise, it does seem as though the IFP and the EFF, they really differ a lot. But I guess the EFF for now, they don't have much they don't have much demands, because they don't have enough seats in parliament.
All right, then, in a sense, just finally, before I let you go, once the president is declared, I mean, can the country now heave a sigh of relief and face the next 5 years under its new president?
I don't think so, Layo. We're still far from over. I think me and you will be talking about this issue for quite some time, because the first part was the negotiations of, who is going with who. The second part is the election. That's where we are at right now. And the last part, which is the third part, it will be the election of portfolios. Now, the another negotiations will start to where who must lead what and who's comfortable with which portfolio. So it's going to be a long process. But also, there's the issue of Phala, that is, roving. It's a dark cloud on President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's still going to come. Questions are, Layo, before I give it back to you, if he goes with the DA, will the DA protect him in parliament when the opposition speaks about Phala, or they will recall him? So those are the questions that we ask ourselves. But yeah, interesting times ahead of us. I can tell you now that everybody is waiting to see how this will play out. Layo?
All right, then. Thank you so much. Innocent Samosa, our correspondent in Johannesburg.
Thank you, colleague.
Iran and the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, have been accused of violating a UN arms embargo by supplying drones to the warring sides in the 14-month conflict that has devastated Sudan. Although Sudan's governing council has denied acquiring weapons from Iran, a drone expert, Wim Zinnenberg, believes the identification of some weapons used in January is an indication of active Iranian support for the Sudanese army. Meanwhile, evidence also emerged early in the war that the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, had used quadcopter drones made from the United Arab Emirates. According to a UN report that was presented to the Security Council earlier this year, aviation tracking experts observed a civilian aircraft air bridge allegedly transporting weapons from the UAE to the RSF. But both the RSF and the UAE have denied these allegations. Now, the United States envoy to Sudan has warned that El Fasher, a besieged city in western Darfur, could fall to rebel forces imminently. El Fasher is the only city still under army control in the western Darfur region. U.S. envoy Tom Perrillo says some in the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces think capturing El Fasher will help them establish Darfur as a breakaway state. The armed forces have been fighting the RSF in a civil war that has lasted over 12 months. Mr. Perrillo says the U.S. will not recognize an independent Darfur under any circumstances. He's also calling for a ceasefire in the city, which the RSF has been attacking since the middle of April. And in the meantime, the World Health Organization is calling on the world's media to continue drawing attention to Sudan and not to allow the world to forget the war in the country. According to WHO chief Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the organization is on the ground supporting life-saving interventions and outbreak response, overseeing health operations and the management of malnutrition. He adds that Sudan is the world's largest humanitarian crisis with 12 million people displaced, 10 million internally, while 2 million have fled to neighboring countries.
Sudan is the world's largest humanitarian crisis, with 12 million people displaced, 10 million internally, while 2 million have fled to neighboring countries. More than 70% of hospitals in conflict-affected states and 45% of health facilities in another 5 states are not working. And the remaining ones are overwhelmed with people seeking care. People are dying from a lack of access to essential services and medicines, while there is a very real risk of mass starvation in some regions. As the situation in Sudan continues to decline, WHO is on the ground supporting life-saving interventions and outbreak response. We provide expert advice, training and oversight to health operations, management of malnutrition, disease surveillance, and outbreak response. WHO also continues to distribute urgently needed medicines, medical supplies using all available avenues, including cross-border and cross-line operations to reach previously unreachable areas in Darfur and Kordofan where the needs are greatest.
We'll take a break now on the program. Still ahead. Thousands of people race to catch fishes as century-old festival returns to southern Mali. Please stay with us for more details. Thanks for staying with us. South Africa's health minister has announced the country's first confirmed death from monkeypox. Minister Joe Pala says a 37-year-old man died as a result of the virus on Monday after being admitted to a hospital in Gauteng province 3 days earlier. He adds that all 5 cases recorded in the country this year, another in Gauteng and 3 in KwaZulu-Natal, are classed as severe and requires hospitalization. The patients are all men aged between 30 and 39 who had not been to other countries experiencing an outbreak, which suggests that the disease is being transmitted locally. or Mpox, formerly called monkeypox, is a viral infection transmitted through close contact. 2 British citizens have been arrested after being accused of attempting to smuggle $6.48 million worth of cocaine from Ghana to London. Around 166 kg of the substance was seized at the Kotoka International Airport in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. The suspects were scheduled to board a British Airways flight to London Gatwick Airport. Ghana's Narcotic Control Commission alleges that the pair hid the cocaine, which was cut into 72 slabs across 6 suitcases. The Commission and the UK Crime Agency conducted the sting operation together. Well, Malawi's defense forces have been speaking of the challenges they faced in search for the ill-fated plane of the vice president that crashed on Monday, killing all 9 people on board. Commander Paul Valentino Firi announced during a press conference in Lilongwe that the country's troops were faced with bad weather conditions, and the area had been foggy, and so visibility was reduced. He adds that the location of the search is not inhabited, therefore troops used helicopters and UAVs to attempt finding the missing aircraft. While the plane was eventually found, crashed near a hill in the Chikangawa forest.
Challenges during the search that are obtaining include the terrain itself, which is very rugged and also thick, because this is a part which is not inhabited. Secondly, this morning, there was also bad weather conditions. The area has been foggy, and thus visibility was reduced. Our troops were on the ground throughout the night, and despite these challenges, they are soldiering on so that they can be able to locate the aircraft. The assets that have been pledged for the search are in the form of aircraft, that is both fixed wing and rotor wing, which are helicopters, and also other imagery gadgets like UAVs, or I can mention that they are in the form of drones. The coordination is being done solely by Malawi Defense Force. And we want to encourage that all those that would want to gain or obtain information should actually contact MDF. MDF in this regard has coordinating points at the MDF headquarters, at Lilongwe Air Force Base, and at Kamuzu International Airport.
And as Malawi continues its period of mourning, the head of football's governing body has visited the Bingu National Stadium in Lilongwe, which played host to the 2026 World Cup qualifier that pitted Cote d'Ivoire against Kenya. The FIFA boss, Giannis Infantino, also met with the sports minister as well as the head of the Malawi Football Association. This is the first time he is visiting Malawi, coinciding with the period of national mourning following the crash of the plane carrying the late Vice President Saulos Chilima. Mr. Infantino was due to meet with the Vice President, and he paid his condolences to Mr. Chilima's widow, Mary Chilima, Malawi's President, Lazarus Chakwera.
The coming of the FIFA president indeed is very historical. We could have loved him to come in a situation whereby maybe there is joy. Unfortunately, we are in grief, and to us, what we're saying is that we are sending our gratitude to him for showing solidarity during this period that in sorrow. This shows that football unites. This shows that indeed football is happening globally.
It's very important, the FIFA president to visit Malawi, because as of me, I meet him, so we share 2 or 3 things, what maybe he can help Malawi to develop as a football.
Back here in Nigeria, about 74 women are beneficiaries in the production, packaging and branding of reusable menstrual pads, which is aimed at promoting menstrual hygiene, management, education and financial empowerment for girls and women in crisis-prone communities. The training was held in Jos, Plateau State, under the auspices of Women and Girl Child Rescue Development Initiative as part of an intervention for rural women and girls within the reproductive age bracket.
For 4 days, women and girls from crisis-affected areas in Plateau North Senatorial District and from different faith backgrounds were in Jos, the state capital, for a training on making reusable menstrual pads. The exercise is to promote menstrual hygiene and equip participants with skills in local production of reusable pads and empower them to earn an income in order to impact their communities.
Today is the fourth day that we've been training women and girls from underserved communities on the production, packaging and branding of the reusable menstrual pads. We came up with this idea where women are trained on how to produce it. They are not just producing it, but they are packaging it and branding it. So we're doing this to improve the reproductive health of women. We're doing this to improve menstrual hygiene and ensure that women have access to menstrual hygiene products.
This project will be a strategic response to increasing access of women to menstrual health, education and hygiene products that they can learn to do it themselves. As you can see them trying to produce it and use it, and each one of them is going home with at least 24 pieces, and that will last for them perhaps for 2 to 3 years.
Some of the participants expressed delight at a chance to equip themselves with necessary skills and knowledge.
The reusable menstrual pads, and I've heard of it, but I don't know how it's been done, and I was even scared of buying it because I've seen it in the market. But when I came here, now I know how to do it myself. I know that I process it, so the fear of using it will not be there because I know the procedures of doing it.
This is also a big step to save young girls from cervical cancer that has been rampant. So I think with this reusable pad, we can improve menstrual hygiene and then reduce the rate of infections in the society. That's by teaching others that are not familiar with it or have not heard about it.
The training, facilitated by Mission 21 in conjunction with the Girl Child Rescue and Development Initiative, provided various items ranging from pads to wrappers, raw materials and funds to the participants to facilitate the takeoff in their various communities.
And finally, on the program, thousands of people have flocked to the town of San in Mali's Segu province to participate in a centuries-old collective fishing festival known as Sanke Mon. Vast crowds armed with fishing nets duck and dive to catch fishes in the muddy waters of the Mare Sacre Pond during the 624th edition of the event. 15 hours of collective fishing and traditional dance performances. The Sanke Mon Festival has been listed by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage event in need of protection since 2009. The event is a celebration of the founding of San and marks the beginning of Mali's rainy season. That's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.